Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We're looking at the Epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 3. We're looking at verses 12 through 19, but really what we're looking at today starts with verse 7. And the reason why is because the author has quoted Psalm 95 in verses 7 through 11, and now they are giving an exegesis, an explanation of what that passage of Psalm 95 means. And he says, brothers and sisters, be warned. See to it none of you have a sin-filled, unbelieving heart. Because what does that do? It turns us away from the living God. And if we have a sin-filled, unbelieving heart, what are we turning towards? Well, if it's turning away from the living God, it means it's turning towards a dead end. And he warns that sin's deceitfulness will harden our hearts and turn us away from life, but instead it turns us towards sin. And the sting of death, the sting of sin, the power of sin is death. And so, he's warning us not to have selfish, self-centered hearts where we're unwilling to trust God and unwilling to be vulnerable to God. And so he says, we come to share Christ. Each and every Christian is called. Remember, we talked before about a heavenly calling. Each and every one of us is called to share Christ. And we do that, as he notes in verse 13, by encouraging one another. And where do we find that encouragement? Is it out on the tractor, in the bass boat, watching TV? Maybe. When we're on TikTok, and all the other distractions that we fill our lives with. The place where we are encouraged is in the house of God, or the household of God. It's in the family of God where we're encouraged. And that is our calling, is to encourage one another. He goes on to say that those who have heard the gospel and yet rebelled, what's going to happen to them? It's just like Moses led the people out of Egypt. And what happened to them? Well, they, God was angry with them because they rebelled against him. And what happened to them? Well, those who sinned, they died off in the desert after 40 years. And to whom did God swear they would never enter his rest? The unbelievers. And what the author of Hebrews is trying to say is that we shouldn't take our faith for granted, but we should be each day listening for the voice of God and grabbing hold of his promises, because that's the way in which we are given peace and rest from the power of sin and death, and the way that we come to the living God who blesses each and every moment of our lives. And so that's what he's trying to encourage the people to do, is not to have sin-filled, unbelieving hearts that reject God and his blessing, but instead to take heart, to be encouraged, to grab hold of that faith in Christ so that we can enter the rest, the blessing of God. Well, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.